With a full retreat, Apple's India factory can't hold on. Inseparable from Chinese manufacturing is a reality that Cook has to accept. In the past few days, there has been bad news from Apple that Western plans to withdraw from India within a year and disband some of its businesses in India. Of course, Western did not respond positively to the news. But it is not groundless. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Western's withdrawal from India is a certainty. In the past, the reason why Apple believed that Indian factories could replace Chinese factories was that India had cheaper labor. But in fact, the result is not so simple. While the labor force is cheap, there is a business environment that can be adjusted at every turn, and there are Indian workers who can't bear hardships and have no security prospect. Most importantly, many raw materials still depend on China. In fact, not only Apple, also many Western companies have been rumored to move from China. In the end, it didn't develop simply like this, but it was a set of words and a set of actions. Many international companies not only did not move, but increased investment in the Chinese market and Chinese manufacturing. Some time ago, the CEOs of Apple, Volkswagen, Samsung, and Qualcomm came to China collectively, saying that it is impossible to break away from Chinese manufacturing. Not only is it made in China, but the Chinese market is also a position that international companies cannot ignore. Like many luxury goods in the West, the Chinese market accounts for more than 50% of its market, and the consequences of leaving the Chinese market are self-evident. There are also many companies, such as Japanese cars, which are not doing well this year. The reason is not that the cars are not good, but that they cannot be sold in the Chinese market. Of course, many international companies are accelerating their embrace of the Chinese market. Many luxury goods, shoes, and clothing are also trying to reach more Chinese consumers through the Chinese internet, such as Coach, L'Oreal, YSL, Adidas, Nike, etc., and they often cooperate with Chinese e-commerce companies Vipshop and others to increase their prices through substantial price increases. The form attracts more users, expands market share, and sees the consumption potential of the Chinese market. Today, bad news came from Apple's Indian factory, allowing Cook to see the irreplaceable products made in China. Many companies only see that India has an optional labor force, but ignore China's industrial chain advantages over the years, which is irreplaceable. Today, Chinese manufacturing is still developing towards high-end intelligence, which will surely set off a new wave of embracing Chinese manufacturing. This world is a rogue's world. I have seen this discussion in the Guangzhou Daily, but the theory of my psychological maturity is earlier than the Guangzhou Daily. My colleagues and I argued several times in the dormitory, starting with Godson, that was under hypothetical circumstances, and most of us were not married at that time. At that time, the university was still a bit hot. When talking about the education of future children, they all sighed, saying that they did not go to good schools so that they were stared at as migrant workers, tired and unable to earn money. After having children, let them go to school and university well. I had no words, and I had no choice but to ask me, what's your opinion? When I said something, they were shocked. I said to my children, I will let them do whatever they want, whether they learn or not is the next best thing, as long as they are well versed in the world. Sophisticated on it. Human society is theirs, and we are only pushing their torrent. Can be ignored. This surprised them a lot. I said again, Liu Bang, /Xiang Yu, Zhou Enlai, Mao Zedong, Sun Yat-sen belong to this column. They even exploded. I understand their reactions. These people are heroes in their minds. If you give them a 180-degree paradox, their values are unacceptable anyway. I said that these people are not obedient citizens, but belong to the ranks of the ruling class they belong to. The vast majority of our society will only envy them, but they do not agree with their careers, for they are said by their imperial literati. Moved by the words, relieve the people in the upside down, and be blessed by the common people. I also said that you should listen to Shan Tianfang's storytelling The Romance of the Sui and Tang Dynasties, where Chen Yejin robbed the emperor's bar. The escort of Wang Gang told Chen Yejin that this is something from the government. Chen Yejin said, what I robbed was the government. Those of us only envy Chen Yejin as a prince, and the Linjian pavilion keeps incense. How many people dare to engage in their careers? People like us are the most ideal for the ruling class. A little food and clothing is all they need, and it will not hinder their rule. The ruling class is the biggest hooligan, the biggest liar, and the most hypocritical people. Those who follow me prosper, and those who oppose me perish. When we are likely to touch their ruling power, we are no longer good people but thieves, the heinous people who everyone eats and eats. Of course, the words were also scolded by others back then, it's just that people have changed. Human society is a collaborative society where a single person cannot live. Those who are good at communicating and coordinating personnel are the beneficiaries of social wealth. So much so that Dogpo Lehman wrote a poem saying, people originally raised children to hope to be smart / I was fooled by cleverness for a lifetime / I hope that my children and grandchildren will be foolish and loose / there will be no disasters or difficulties to the public. If you think that what I have said is in the service of learning uselessness, then you are very wrong. Learning is the basis for promoting human progress, but further speaking, it serves the ruling class. Of course, for the stability of the regime, the ruling class still focuses on the needs of the general public and can still represent the voice of the people. People's hearts are unpredictable, reality is the most powerful and short-sighted. I vaguely mentioned above that making money, being an official, and learning are out of proportion. It is only related to the social resources you possess, the sophistication of human relationships, the subversion of conscience, and the degree of grasp of timing. Life is real, and the quality of life is to a considerable extent related to the amount of social resources it possesses. So we see that there are many great Confucianists or people of insight, their lives are spent in hard times, and their lives are poor, while those we spurn and do nothing are fat and light all their lives. Spring breeze, enjoy the endless beauty of the world. Don't tell me that it is reasonable to travel all over the world. Since ancient times, the fist is the king's law. Whoever has the biggest fist will be reasonable. Let's talk about the old beauty now, bombing Yugoslavia, bombing Iraq, and bombing Afghanistan. Look at who the public opinion is now. This is the reason why the winner is the prince and the loser is the cow. Of course, we can also go back to the community and take a look in the countryside. Those ignorant gangsters are definitely better off than those who can't kick a fart with 3 legs, let alone the retaining their names before and after their lives. What ordinary people don't think so many. I only know that no one will live 100 years, 1,000 years, or 10,000 years, and no one will have a second, third, or fourth life. It is even more impossible to admit things if you do not recognize the dead body, and the public opinion after that has nothing to do with them. The subsequent cleanup discussions are just examples of the current ruling class educating the people. The power of role models is infinite. Really, I believe it, even the colleagues around me. I wanted to cooperate with you, but you used my kindness to play me. Feeling cheated, fighting against opponents intensified, in line with the current portrayal of Medvedev's character. Regarding Medvedev, he dealt with the West with a moderate face during his administration. Since the outbreak of the Russo-Ukraine war, he has changed his past moderate face and acted tougher than Putin. Which Medvedev is real? I'm a bit confused. Toughness is Russian culture. This is the only way to express your opinion at this point in time. I think he is reshaping his image in order to take over Putin's class. Today's Russia does not need a person like Medvedev who is as soft as a sheep in the past. China's diplomacy has also changed from weak to tough. Everything is caused by the linkage of the external environment. Otherwise, it is tantamount to sending oneself to death. Just like the climate, the external climate determines the clothes and hats of people. In the past, the United States was the largest trading partner, and there were conflicts among the people. Now after the trade war, the nature has changed, and the diplomatic system has also changed people. China is tough in its mouth, but relatively moderate in its foreign policy, as can be clearly seen from the anti-sanctions against the US struggle. Take a passive counterattack. I have never taken the initiative to attack. This thing is mainly based on actions rather than words. The diplomatic offensive of Xi's cooperation is equivalent to Nixon's visit to China, even the United States said. Currently Macron is also attacking. Regarding the issue of the Islamic anti-American alliance, I have been advocating it for more than 10 years. China adopted the anti-encirclement and suppression strategy back then, which was reasonable, beneficial, and restrained. Not to eliminate opponents, but to cooperate. After all, Sino-US cooperation has a surplus of hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Big too soft. Economic and trade relations plays a big role. Still under normal trade today. China and the United States are couples with emotional breakups, but the interests of the children maintain the relationship and cannot divorce. Economy and trade are real interests, and real interests often conflict with strategic interests. China has never lacked flexible tacticians, but it has always lacked strategists with world-class vision. Therefore, many people in the contemporary era still regard Deng's practice of keeping a low profile as a scripture. The rise of Mongolia and the Manchu Qing dynasty were all caused by strategic mistakes made in history. Japan's successful invasion of China was also a strategic mistake made back then. The ruling class governs the country with money in one hand and a knife in the other. Indispensable. There is not only military aggression against foreign countries, but also trade dumping. Moreover, the effect of trade dumping is long-term corrosion inhibition, the mode of boiling frogs in warm water. Because these decision makers only see what is in front of them, what is real, but they cannot see potential changes. Strictly speaking, this is called an industrial chain war, which belongs to the category of economic warfare. China is very lacking in the thinking of industrial chain war in this field, otherwise the production capacity in Southeast Asia would have been destroyed long ago. The West has made such mistakes before, and now we are repeating the mistakes of the West. Southeast Asia should be regarded as the peripheral support of China's capital in the future. After the change of dynasties in the past, they all severely attacked the old and young of the previous dynasties, so as not to force the current regime to force the palace. Therefore, after the victory of the East-West struggle in the future, China will turn Europe and the United States into cesspit countries. This is how Europe treats the Ottomans. The West used to think that as long as it controls R&D, design, and patents, China can only be a coolie in the manufacturing process in the entire industrial chain. Taiwan has always been this model. They listen to the West very much, and they only do Western boundaries. China is too big, they can't control it. The West has a population of 800 million, China's 1.4 billion. It's like raising a tiger. From the Tsinghua Preparatory School wanting the Chinese elite to serve them, to the nationalists wanting to be independent. Want to economically use China to attack the Soviet Union, and then use color to revolutionize China. Go to China to eat the whole Western industrial chain. In short, the mature experience in foreign countries has all passed in front of China. Kissinger's latest interview is nothing more than replaying the old drama of the alliance between China and the Soviet Union. To ease Sino-US relations, split China and Russia, isolate Russia, destroy Russia first and then deal with China. Russia and the United States are in a competitive relationship, and there is no room for cooperation. The relationship between Russia and the United States is not as good as that of China and the United States, which are complementary relations. Russia has two things that make all major powers jealous. One is its nuclear deterrence capability, and the other is its resources are too rich. The United States does not have so many resource reserves. Who in the United States does not want to control Russia's natural resources? The economic rise of EU member states such as Germany mainly depends on Russia's cheap resources. Anti-corruption and political reshuffle, and auditing can achieve both economics and politics. Now that the economy is not good, the money comes in faster. Anyway, corrupt officials don't dare to spend their money at the moment, it's dead money. The government can invigorate the economy by taking it away. The big secret economic team can't play under the current conditions. They pretend to be pragmatic on the surface, but they don't see any real tricks or coups. With a full retreat,